You're listening to Podketeers.
Welcome to episode 366 of Podketeers. This week we talk about where the Walt Disney Archives exhibit is going next. A fisherman has an encounter straight out of a Disney film. The original Disney store is closing. All Disney parks are open at the same time in over a year. A new Marvel-themed hotel opens in Paris. Plus, we talk about episode 2 of the Disney Plus original series, Loki. Make sure to check out the blog post for this episode at podketeers.com/366 to see some of the things that we talk about in the episode. And remember that you can also join the conversation and connect with us over on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. Just search for Podketeers. But we'd love for you to join our growing community over on our Discord server. You can find an invite to join in the blog post for this episode. Before we get started, I'd like to take a moment to thank a very special group of people known as the FGP Squad, our podcast Fairy Godparents, because it's their support via Patreon that help make these episodes of Podketeers possible. As part of the FGP Squad family, you get some additional perks like exclusive discount codes for Podketeers gear, additional content, access to our monthly happy hour calls, and more. So for more info on how you can become part of the FGP Squad family, we invite you to check out podketeers.com/FGP. And as always, a super special thank you goes out to the FGP Squad for their continued support. Alright, that's it. It's time to get this thing going. So let's kick this episode off, shall we? This is episode 366 of Podketeers. Alright. Wow.
I need to work on that impression.
Episode 2 still wowless.
Yeah.
It's very sad.
Womp
It is
womp.
Yeah, same here.
Well, there's definitely plenty to talk about as Loki episode 2 has officially run. Again, released on Podketeers Wednesday. They wanted to take advantage of the Podketeers bump, so I get it, you know. Well, I'm telling you, when Kev came to me and he was like, hey, man, is it cool if we do Wednesdays? I was like, by all means, man, let's just do it. And that's the story of how Loki got released on Wednesdays and major films started to get released on Fridays. Has nothing to do with anything else that Disney Plus or Marvel has planned out.
Nope.
But all it has to do with is the fact that they want it to be released on the same day that Podketeers gets released on. End of story.
The end.
Because that's when the magic happens.
Right?
That's a story, and he's sticking
Yep.
to it.
That's right. It is. So many things. Larry, I heard that the archive that you went to is getting a new home this week.
Yeah, speaking of magic, it's getting all shook up.
Nice.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, if you didn't know what that meant, it's going to Graceland. I know,
Nice.
weird. That's a weird place to think. It's magic, once again, because, you know, nobody can question the king of music, that is. But it will be on the Graceland property, I guess. I had never known, but they have a museum in that same area. And they're going to be opening it up on July 23rd, and it'll run through January 2nd, 2022. And it's going to include a lot of the same things I saw, which you can find at my YouTube channel, Goofy Guys Adventures, and specifically on our post for 365, the episode. Heyzen was gracious enough to put that on there. So you guys can check out the one we saw here at the Bowers Museum and hear all about it in our last episode. But this next one, some key artifacts that they're adding over there that we didn't have Disney related that I'm pretty envious of already, of Graceland not just being a cool place to be, but now for this, the Tron ride vehicles, or well, vehicles from Tron the movie Tron Legacy. So yeah, that is my coup de grace of things, and I would have loved to see, I think I would have been totally different,
Right.
and biased on that end, because I mean, if I saw a light cycle, which I've seen before in pictures, but in person, I think I might have had to excuse myself for multiple reasons. But we could cut to other ones.
Well, and they're probably, they were selling Dole Whips at the Bowers one. I wonder if they'll sell, like, peanut butter banana sandwiches.
Ooh, maybe.
Nice.
That would be
Right?
cool.
I believe it was called a peanut butter nana sandwich.
Oh.
Hey, Mickey, give me
Yeah.
a peanut butter and banana sandwich.
All right, King. Here you go.
See,
Oh,
I
thanks,
hope
Mickey. Sounds like Johnny Bravo. I don't know.
the one thing I hope like they have there is something with Lilo and Stitch. I
Yeah.
That
hope.
would be perfect.
I hope.
If they had Stitch in his little Elvis costume, that would be
Aw.
awesome. That's what
Imagine
greets
they
you when you're
sold
walking
it.
in.
Oh my god, if they sold like a plush like that,
Dude.
there,
Yeah.
I would probably go after somebody to go get that for me.
It can have the
That'd be
Welcome to Graceland logo that they have, like that big sign, but he crosses it
Yeah.
off and it says like Welcome to Stitchland.
That'd be cute.
That'd be
I
awesome.
love
Never
it.
know. Ideas. Here we go. We're pitching them again for
Right.
the exhibit now.
Yes, you're welcome. Did you ever get a chance to see the light cycle that they had as part of Electronica at DCA?
I did. That's one of my fond memories of it because I remember walking. Now I'll fully admit, at that time earlier in my like DCA Disney fandom of like parks being able to go at an older age, I kind of just walked right past it without even realizing it the first time, and I took a quick like 360, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then when I took the 360 and I looked, I almost like thought I was. This is how bad I am. I thought I was dreaming. Like I thought, oh, this is in my head. Like, what am I doing? But then it was really there, and I was like, just like, and I remember distinctively, like Rebecca's like, okay, yeah, we need to take a minute. He's in that zone. But yes, I do.
That's funny. Yeah, I remember that during Electronica, it was one of my favorite things to see. And I mean, I'm not a huge fan of Tron the way that you or Mel or even Gavin was. Like, your Tron fandom is, like, up there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember going, but it was my favorite thing to photograph every time that I walked into Electronica. And back in the olden days, when I was just a young whippersnapper, I may have almost gotten in trouble for kind of approaching the vehicle and getting
Oh,
super close to
wow.
it, kind of wanting to sit on it. And I
Sir,
didn't.
please stand behind the ropes. Please stay
Right.
behind the
I
ropes.
didn't because I got caught right before, but I was trying to sneak a photo in, and I, again, much younger, didn't have many more boundaries, and I shouldn't have done it. I get it, but man, if I had gotten that photo, it would have been super dope, right? Either way, don't do stuff like that. Do as I say, not as I do. Even though it was so long ago at this point. Oh, I feel so old all of a sudden. It feels
boy.
it feels like a lifetime ago. But yeah, definitely one of the cooler things there. By the way, remember last week we couldn't figure out what that guy's name was when we were talking about the guy that sold his collection?
Oh,
the-
yeah.
The house.
Yeah, so I ended up researching it because I couldn't remember. I thought that right after we were done, I was going to be like, that's his name. Couldn't remember it, but I wrote up a little thing for the blog post because there was also this really great video by this channel called Beyond the Backlot that got an entire tour of his house, and I put it in the blog post as well. But the couple is Scott and Terry Rummel. And Scott, we mistakenly thought that he was like some music exec. He's not actually. He's a voiceover actor, and he's like the voice of the movies.
Oh,
okay.
So
wow.
if you want to see the video, again, head over to podketeers.com/365. There you will also find the vlog that Larry created from his visit to the Bowers as well, if you hadn't had an opportunity to see that. So many good things. I am jealous that you had a chance to go, like I said last week, because it was definitely on my list. And with the flip-flopping back and forth, every time they would reopen, it was super hard to get tickets unless you were there and ready to go to get them every time that they made the announcement. So now that it's at Graceland, if I start traveling now, I should get there in time for the January closing, right?
I think I think that's a good plan.
If you start walking now.
Yeah. Ooh, that's going to be some steps on the Fitbit. That's all I'm saying. Let's see. Oh, Mel.
Yeah.
So you sent this text message. I found it super comical.
Right?
Tell us a little bit about what happened.
Your face is just, I know. When I first heard about this, I thought the same thing too, because this is like, what? You've heard of this story, and let me just tell you what happened. So over in Cape Cod in Massachusetts, a gentleman by the name of Michael Packard, who usually dives for lobsters. Everyday thing. He does his thing. He has his own business. He's minding his own business, right? Mind you, this happened a few days ago. So it's recent. Keep that in mind. So he's over and he's at the bottom of pretty much like 10 feet from the bottom of the ocean. Yeah, you might be like, oh my God, that is dark place.
Right.
Underwater, kind of scary, even for me. So that's why I'm kind of fascinated by this. And so he's doing his thing, and then suddenly he feels this pressure, and suddenly everything goes dark. And I'm telling you the story of how he told it in the interview. And what he describes is he's in something. He knows he's in something. And he's talking about, well, one thing, there's no teeth. So that's a good sign. It ain't a shark. Woo! All right. That's one checklist. Woo-hoo. So as that's happening, he's describing being inside. It's dark, but it's only lasting about 4 or 5 seconds or so. And the way that he's describing the movement of how fast he's going is kind of like, think about how you're on Space Mountain. Dark, and it goes fast.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of like the speed that he's going at. And suddenly he is just...
Which is crazy underwater.
Yes.
Seriously.
This is still underwater. Yes.
Right.
So it sounds like it takes forever. But like I said, no. It's about 5 seconds. And then he's shot out. Legs first, he's out. You know, it kind of made me think, one, I'm so glad he survived it, because that is terrifying, right? 2, oh my gosh, this is a real life Pinocchio story. We are listening right now. That's exactly why I had to talk about this, because I'm terrified of the ocean. Monstro still scares me on Pinocchio, but I had to tell the story of what I had seen. And I'm like, this is fascinating, terrifying, but oh my gosh, what an adventure.
So in the matter of 4 to 5 seconds, dude is fishing for lobster, gets swallowed by a whale.
Yes, and you know what? I didn't say what it was. It's a humpback whale.
Okay, gets swallowed by a
Big
humpback
old
whale.
guy.
Big whale.
Goes on a flight while something from Fantasia's playing in the background.
Yes.
Gets shot out. Did he say if he got shot out of the blowhole, or did he just go out of the mouth again?
Out of the mouth.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Like
he gets
spit
spit
out.
out because apparently he didn't taste like chicken.
Yeah.
Tasted like scuba tank.
krill.
Yeah. Or krill. Or chicken krill. Who knows? Chicken flavored krill. That's a thing. They sell
Can't
it.
believe it's not krill.
Yeah.
Nice.
And he lives to tell about it
Yes.
after being swallowed by a whale. This is insane.
It is. And he just had the fortunate luck of someone else finding him, seeing him come out with his legs up. I'm like, this is insane. So
He was interviewed on Jimmy Kimmel. That's right. That's what you sent over.
Yes.
Is Jimmy Kimmel. And I clicked on the link, and he's sitting. They interview him sitting in a whale, like whale's
Yeah.
mouth, a
Custom-
big ceramic or something.
Yeah.
Whale.
but the
That's
coolest
cool.
thing about that is that they're taking the whale's chair, and he's going to take it to his business, and he's going to sell his stuff on that.
Oh, really?
So I was
That's
like,
cool.
hey,
Cool.
that's awesome.
That's fantastic.
I mean, you would have to think that after having that type of experience, one, you have to be grateful for surviving.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Because that's
So
it's crazy to me how that can happen. But after, I guess you can just kind of laugh it off and be like, oh, haha, it's a funny story. Like, I didn't taste like chicken. It spit me back out. But, I mean, he didn't say that he didn't taste like chicken. I'm obviously adding that.
Right.
But I mean, we saw, like you mentioned, it's something you see in Pinocchio. You know, it's part of the story and everything. Pinocchio makes it out, and you know, you got the whole scene and everything. But yeah, exactly.
Oh, you know what I didn't mention? The one way he did survive is that he had his mask on.
His scuba mask.
His
His scuba mask?
Yeah, because he was diving.
Yeah.
So he had his equipment
man.
with him. So that's how he survived.
That's crazy. The only other thing that would have probably made that interaction worse is if there was an anglerfish that turned on its light right next to him. For those not familiar with the anglerfish, whether you've seen them on the Nemo subs or you've seen them anywhere else, they're the fish that look kind of like footballs, and on the Nemo subs they have these huge teeth. They were in Finding Nemo as well, but they have the huge teeth. They're in the darkness, and all of a sudden they have this like little hangy light bulb thing that turns on in front of them, and then you can see what this vicious thing looks like. That would have probably been the only other thing that would have made me excuse myself, as Larry excused himself had he seen the Tron vehicles. Unless it was a different, I don't know. But that's insane.
Yeah, imagine seeing that inside, like you said, it's dark, right? And I think I got the link too. You imagine seeing that inside of the whale's mouth. I mean, that would be like, well, I guess this is it. This is how I wrap this chapter up. Now you've put that final link in when you say he's wearing his mask. That solved a lot for me, because I thought he would just resort to, please open your mouth, because we've all been taught by Dory, right?
Right.
To speak humpback well, but
That's funny. I love it. Well, what was his name again?
Oh, Michael Packard.
Michael Packard. Well, we're happy that you survived, sir. That's crazy. I can't imagine the trauma that comes along with that, but I mean, what a story.
A whale
Right?
of a tale.
What a story. You hear or two maybe. Yeah, that's insane. You hear about shark attacks all the time, but I don't think I've ever heard of a whale attack like this before.
I haven't.
no, that's my first. I always wondered. Seriously, I'm afraid of the ocean on many levels. So afraid of it. I'm afraid of bridges even. So I get real wheezy, and I always wondered, like, why don't they go after people? So I never really felt scared, but now I know it was just a mistake.
Yeah.
Obviously, the whale probably regrets every minute of that. You know, it's like swallowing.
Well, in his interview, he apologized to the whale.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
He said he would
That's
never
right.
do it again.
He'd never do it again.
Well, what's he going to do if the whale doesn't watch Jimmy Kimmel? He's never going to hear
That
the
was a part of-
apology.
They're going to have to send him a letter, I guess.
Or maybe just
Gotta
the YouTube
translate
link,
it.
right?
Yeah, translated in whale. You said it was humpback, right?
Right.
Yeah, humpback.
I'm pretty sure that's humpback.
That's right. That's humpback.
Oh, man. Well, yeah, I don't think I would like that as well. I mean, how do you come back from that?
Spit out, obviously.
Yeah, just a tiny bit. Oh, hey, did any of you ever work at the Disney stores?
No.
No.
No?
I did dream of that. I
Shopped
did.
at the Disney stores.
Yeah, so my wife and some of our friends actually worked at the Disney stores really, really early on in our working careers. We were all very young. I guess my wife is technically an ex-cast member.
Yeah,
Because when she was working for the Disney store, it's when Disney still owned them. When she left, I think they were in the middle of transitioning to Children's Place buying them, which was a child's brand clothing store that was now going to run them. And apparently that's when a lot of the Disney stores lost a lot of their Disney magic. And then I'm not sure if they ever went back to being run by Disney. But sadly, it looks like more Disney stores are closing, all of the ones in Europe. But I think what really got me was when I read that the original Disney store that's at the Glendale Galleria, very close to the Disney Studios, is going to be closing July 14th, I believe, is the last day. I'd have to double check on that day, but it's kind of sad. You know, a Disney store is one of those things where you could get a little bit of that Disney magic when you couldn't go to the parks. The stores were always so beautifully decorated with these maquettes and statues of all the characters. And if you were lucky enough, your Disney store happened to have the ones that still moved around because they always seem to break. And yeah, I have really fond memories of being able to at least walk into a Disney store. They had the big plush mountain, in front of the movies that they would show all day long. Some of the sing-along videos were back there as well. What was the coolest thing that you remember ever buying from a Disney store?
I know I bought. Yeah, I know I bought. Melissa actually sent this to me. It was a clearance. It's like a 12-inch tall genie from Aladdin. It was like plush legs with like a rubber top. That's pretty cool. I have a great Roger Rabbit shirt that I don't wear because I like to keep it nice. I got that from the Disney store. All kinds of fun stuff from the Disney store.
Yeah.
Right on.
I actually have a few
Lots of
dolls.
gifts.
That's great you say that, Andrew, because I was saying, I don't have a memory distinctive. I know I'm missing out on something that I've gotten there because I remember, just like you were saying, Heyzen, it's funny when you mentioned the plush mountain. It was like this centerpiece. That was the one thing about the store, too, I love, was like the stage lighting inside of a store that they used to have to hit that right there. Like, it's not like luminescent, standard lighting, like when you go to any clothes store or what. But I remember one Christmas, me and my wife went all in, and we just said, we're going to buy Disney stuff from the Disney store just to knock out all the kids, because they were at that prime age, the nieces and nephews,
Nice.
to get them stuff from the store. And we're like, we're taking advantage of this. So that was probably one of my cooler memories, just buying toys from there. And, like, all of it was Disney. All of it. It was just really like a dream. That was cool.
That's awesome.
Well, that plush mountain, they would have all kinds of different characters you wouldn't see normally on there too. Like that's the one of the sad parts is you go find an obscure character, a Robin Hood or something on the plush mountain.
Yeah. It's funny because I've talked a lot about how I didn't grow up with Disney. I found Disney much later in life. I was already an adult. My wife and I had started kind of transitioning from having season passes and going to Magic Mountain all the time to starting to go to Disneyland, and that was it became our happy place. We would go as much as possible. We got our passes for Disneyland, but the Disney store was part of that gateway into the magic for me, right? Because I was never a big collector because I didn't grow up with it, but I remember whenever I would pre-order a DVD or a Blu-ray, I would get the lithographs, and I would get like all these special edition items, and I don't know, it felt insanely special to me to be able to have and they weren't always an actual lithograph, or they were just a print basically. They weren't like a piece of film or anything that came from the movie or anything. You could get stuff like that, but it was collectible that you had to purchase on the side. But I just remember when I first started getting the collectible lithographs and I first started getting these things to decorate with, it's kind of where my Disney fandom really began to take hold and really began to get rooted. And then with my wife working there, she would get me all sorts of mugs. I have a lot of the mugs that she got me, like my Mickey coffee mug, my Mr. Incredible mug. I have a huge Mickey mug that he's like exclaiming like, ah, like the one that I commonly use. Like all of those were gifts from when she was at the Disney store. On top of that, I would shop for so many t-shirts there, and believe it or not, I remember I was going through a lot of our clothes recently because we were putting either stuff in storage that I wanted to keep for my kids. I gave away a lot of really old clothes that I don't fit into because I'm much more robust than I was
Putting on the
many
muscle.
a year ago.
Like Mr. Incredible.
Like Mr. Incredible, exactly. But I found... any of you want to take a guess as to how many Disney shirts I found from the Disney store?
52.
That's the first thing I was thinking. I was like, that was what I remember buying so many shirts. And
Well,
then
that's less than I have,
out.
so.
Okay, I'll tell you.
Go for
I
it.
had 39
Woo.
Disney Store shirts, okay? But that does not include the 24 shirts that I had actually used, because the other ones were all brand new with the tags still on them.
Wow.
Wow. Okay.
Okay.
That's
Wow, indeed.
crazy.
Yeah. So, I mean,
Some willpower.
at this point, no, or a compulsive obsession to buy stuff.
You just
I
don't
mean-
got right.
That's the thing,
One of
right?
the two.
So now I have all these vintage Disney Store shirts that I don't think I'm ever going to fit in. I'm going to be realistic about this. I'm not going to fit into a large again, anytime soon at least. But my kids are very close to that size range, so I'm just holding on to them at this point for them to be able to wear, because there's some really awesome stuff in there. And then on top of that, I had all of my old skateboarding shirts, like all of my Element shirts, and like they're all like I had a whole bunch of new stuff that I would buy, because when I would go to the mall and I would go to the Disney store, they had the PacSun right next to the Disney store. So I would go to the Disney store, buy Disney shirts, and then I would go buy the Element shirts over at PacSun. So I had way too many T-shirts. But I guess it's cool, right? You got a whole bunch of vintage stuff that you can remember purchasing, and I guess if I really wanted to, I could probably sell them at this point. But I kind of like the idea of my kids keeping them and having that vintage clothing available to them.
Well, they're not going to listen to this. Just give them to them as presents. And, when they start getting that size, there
I
you
was
got
about to
you
say,
got
the
presents
gifting
already,
continues.
already
Smart
purchased.
I went on eBay and found this for tons of money.
Tons of money. That's why you got one.
That's funny. I might consider that, but I think I may have already told them about them. So I may have made the mistake and told them, but it's fine. I mean, regardless, they're going to end up with them. The only reason they don't have them now is because they still need to grow into them a little bit more. But as soon as they fit, those things are coming out of storage, and they're all vacuum sealed, and they're all like well taken care of. And yeah, I'm excited for them to be able to use those. Back when T-shirts were still great quality from the Disney store.
Oh, here we go.
I don't know what the quality is now. I shouldn't say that.
Hanes Beefy Tea. That's most of their T-shirts.
I'm just thinking them being from the Disney store when it was still a Disney property. That's not even, who cares about quality. It's pretty cool, like a relic.
Yeah.
Even though it's a T-shirt, we
Yeah.
see, what is it, like concert T-shirts blow up
Yeah.
these days because they were printed on whatever then. They
That's
weren't
true.
like real good printing.
That's true.
This is kind of cool. It's like having a piece of Disney archive.
That's
You
true.
know,
There you go.
you got something from the store.
Maybe I shouldn't give it to them.
Aw.
Maybe I should just put
now they're
them on
gonna hate me.
display
They're gonna-
somewhere instead, and
They're
just
gonna
build a
listen to this
museum.
episode and be like,
Those like jersey frames, but
Yeah.
instead of jerseys, it's
yeah.
Maybe I
That would
should
be
just cycle
cool.
them.
a grumpy T-shirt.
Mm.
Yeah.
My old Ducks jerseys are also put away in that.
Oh, that's cool.
So I have the original jerseys from when the Ducks first started up in Anaheim. I have a
Dang.
Timu Solani jersey. Yeah, I got a lot of heat for being a Ducks fan when they were first established. And you know what? I didn't even care. I still
for
get
you.
heat for being a Ducks fan, but I don't even care. Okay, well, definitely want to talk about Loki in a moment. If you live in the Southern California area, make sure that you head over to the Disney store out in Glendale if you're interested in getting anything before they close. I believe that there is a list of all of the ones that are going to be closing. If I can find the list, I will put it in the blog post for this episode over at podketeers.com/366. And you can see if there's anything near you. I'm assuming that there's going to be a lot of discounted items as they get closer to closing each location. The one thing that I never had an opportunity to do at a Disney store that I wanted to was go early enough to get a key.
Oh yeah, people post about those keys all the time. Yeah, those were cool.
Yeah, that's the one thing that I always regret not getting, or not going early enough to get one.
Can we clarify this for listeners, aka can you clarify this for me?
You would, if you got
I don't know
there,
the key.
if you
I'm
got
not
there
aware of this.
early enough in the morning, they do like a little ceremony, and they pick somebody out from the crowd and to unlock the store for the day. And I believe then you could purchase, like the first X amount of people in the store could purchase it. Is that correct, Heyzen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like first 10 or 20 people could purchase the key in the morning. They'd be themed differently. It was like the deed of the Disney logo at the end of the key.
Yeah.
Like the handle part of the key, and they themed a Toy Story or whatever that day's theme was.
Well, those keys now they sell at the parks are blowing up, right? They have like a series going right now of those collectibles.
Well, you
that
can-
reminds me of that too.
I didn't know that they had them at the parks, but I know for a fact that they have them on Shop Disney.
Mhm.
And it is,
Oh.
I mean, the entire premise of Disney closing the Disney stores is because they're transitioning to online commerce like most other companies are. Most retailers have realized that having a brick and mortar isn't as effective as online sales because Amazon and other companies that have embraced the online shopping experience have really just morphed how people do their shopping and commerce in general. So I know the keys are available. They go on sale fairly frequently. They're approximately $15 a piece, I think, when you buy them. But they're nice. I mean, like Andrew was saying, they have like the swishy D, and then it's like a key, and then the bottom portion is I don't know if it's
I think it's
a
the
Mickey
castle.
head
Aurora's
or is
castle
it a
or Cinderella's
castle?
castle.
Okay.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's one of the castles.
Yeah.
But those are nice. And that's crazy. I never bought one either. That's the funny thing. I saw them on Shop Disney when we were attempting to purchase the Castle Funko because a bunch of them were on sale for like $8 or something like that. And I never even got them then. So, go figure. Maybe.
Missed out on the trend.
Well, you know what? I'm going to buy one anyway. I don't even care.
Do it.
I'm just going to buy one.
I did look up the Disney store was run by Children's Place until 2008, and then they took it back over.
Oh,
in
so Disney took it
2008.
back again after.
Yeah,
Okay.
after
All right.
2008.
All right. Well, that's good to know.
Yeah. And did you guys know about the Superstar Limo connection to Disney Store?
No.
One of the supposedly I read this. I don't remember who I read this from. It was a while ago, but it's been up in my head. When they were thinking of ideas to retheme Superstar Limo, one of the ideas was something like Goofy's Superstar Limo, and instead of the celebrities, it was all of those maquette animatronics from the Disney store they were going to put in the ride, and it'd be all the Disney characters as opposed to Regis Philbin and Antonio Banderas.
Nice.
Aw.
So, yeah.
It would have been a good way to repurpose them.
Well,
Yeah.
they still, they got to
Better.
pull them out. We can put them in the Monsters Inc. ride. Just Huey, Dewey, and Louie, and Mike and Sully.
Nice. Or if they want to give a couple of those to me so that I can put them up on display in my living room, that's also cool with me.
Yeah, and the Christmas ones, send them over to me. I'll put them in the
Yeah,
yard.
no problem.
Sure.
Well, sadly, the Disney stores are closing, but you know what's reopened?
Let's.
All of the Disney parks in the world
Yay.
are open together as
Woohoo!
one for the first time in 14 plus months.
Mm-hmm.
That is insane.
Last holdout, Disneyland Paris just opened up. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they have a new hotel opening up, too. That I think just opened up as the day we're recording, the New York Hotel.
Oh, the
Opened
Marvel
up.
one.
Ooh.
The Marvel Hotel, yeah. The New York Hotel opened up.
Nice.
And, yeah, they had a little opening ceremony, and Spider-Man arrived on top of a yellow cab to the front of the hotel.
Nice.
And,
Wait a second. He's got webs that he can sling from, and he takes a cab?
he was on top of the cab.
Oh.
He took her.
Not in
Still.
the, on, he was like, and then he did a backflip off the cab.
Okay.
This Disney parks, I don't know, this Disney parks Spider-Man, I mean, the real Spider-Man, does a lot more backflips than the Spider-Man in the movie, I have to say. I don't know if
Interesting.
anybody else has noticed that, but he does
I
a lot of
haven't.
flips. He does so many flips.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, they're fantastic flips, and I could never do a flip in my life, but there's a lot of flips.
I got hit really hard once, and I flipped that way.
Oh.
It wasn't
That
my
sucks.
favorite way to flip, but I did it.
I need like a trampoline and like all kinds of stuff to even attempt to flip. But
That's funny.
anyway, Marva Hotel's open. Looks great. Looks fancy.
Yeah, I remember seeing the concept art for the New York hotel and just wanting to be there and being, a little jealous that it wasn't opening here.
Mm-hmm.
And even in Florida, we're getting a Star Wars themed hotel. I want me my Marvel hotel. What's up with that? I mean, we had all these plans to open up new hotels. Let's get it going.
Come on, Indiana Jones Hotel, Disneyland Resort.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's gonna.
The
Yep,
entire menu and everything is in Arabic. So
exactly.
Chilled monkey praise finally happens.
You get a bowl of bugs and a bowl of snake things, and yummy.
that's funny. And then there's a secret entrance to the Temple of the Forbidden Eye that goes through the secret tunnels that no one's supposed to know about, but right into the hotel and into the queue. Dun, dun, dun.
That
Yeah, you have
would
your
be-
own Jeep.
Yeah.
That's like an enclosed Jeep with screens on it. You know what? That's take it. We're the team on this. Disney, just call us. Call Heyzen. You've got his number apparently.
It writes
And
itself.
we got it. We'll just put us on the team, and we'll get it done for you real
That's
quick.
true. Yep, we'll get it done. We're the people.
We'll get it done. Indie Hotel, coming in 2035.
That's funny. Well, I want to talk some Loki since we're talking about Marvel.
Let's do it.
Obviously. But before we do, I do want to remind you that this episode of Podketeers is brought to you by a fantastic group of listeners known as the FGP Squad, which is what they've called themselves because that's much easier to hashtag than what we call them, our podcast Fairy Godparents. Now, if you're interested in finding out how you can become part of the FGP Squad family, you can head on over to podketeers.com/FGP. There you will find more information on what the FGP Squad is, a list of some of our top contributors, and information on how you can head over to our Patreon page because that's how we get our primary support. Being a part of the FGP Squad family gets you some additional perks like access to our happy hour calls, which is happening again this weekend. If you're listening to this episode on launch day or launch week, you'll get the invite over on Patreon. You'll probably see the post over on Instagram as well. We're super excited to be back. Last month was a little difficult, and we weren't able to have our calls, so we're glad to be back. We know a lot of the FGP Squad members have been to the parks as well, so we've been just excited to talk to them about their return and their experiences, playing some games, hanging out. It's going to be a fun time again. More information will be posted on that. Again, if you would like more information on how you can become part of the FGP Squad family, head on over to podketeers.com/FGP. And of course, to all of the members of the FGP Squad, I just want to send a huge thank you for all of your continued support. Oh, and I got some stuff to give to you guys very soon, so stay tuned.
Oh, the deets. Look
You want that
out.
stuff? Sign up for FGP.
It's coming. That sounds
It's
freaky.
cool. I've seen it.
That sounds
I've
freaky.
seen
That
it.
sounds scary.
It's
I
cool.
shouldn't say it like that.
You're
No,
gonna want it.
You shouldn't be afraid.
Yeah,
They're nice.
No fear.
I like
Be
them.
envious. Be very.
I
envious.
like them, but that's just me. All right. Oh, Loki in the parks. Did he update this week? I didn't notice if they updated his costume.
It seems like every week, if he's changing a costume, they're changing a costume. He's in his variant suit jacket and tie.
Nice.
Little like square tie at the end,
Yeah.
like Blues Brothers tie. But yeah, it looks like they're. I'm waiting to see what next week's costume brings
Right.
us. If it's gonna be
That's
something
cool.
different.
Now, it will be a little disappointing if they've gone through that transition the last 3 weeks, and then from here on out, it's nothing but him in that outfit.
Yeah. I have a feeling with how this episode played out, something's gonna change eventually.
Yeah. Well, if you have not had an opportunity to watch episode 1 and 2 of Loki on Disney Plus, you've been warned. There's going to be some spoilers in what we talk about next because, hot damn, another great episode.
Police and the
So
fireman.
much good. I love it. Where do you guys want to start here? Because
There's a lot. There's a lot to talk about.
Larry brought it up at the beginning, the jet skis, man.
Let's
What's
start
up with
there.
the jet skis? Let's start with the jet skis.
What is up with the jet ski reference when they are on the desk? I mean, that's really the beginning of the episode with Miss Time, and you gotta love Loki swatting Miss Time.
Oh, Miss Minutes?
Minutes.
Miss
Minutes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
my bad.
Miss
It's Miss
I mean, the
yeah.
fact that Miss Minutes is actually a character that can be like a little
Oh,
humanoid
yes, like
outside
that.
in the real world, even in
That's
like
a good-
holographic
It's like an
form.
AI hologram
Yeah.
deal.
That is super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel that question that he asked too. It's like, are you live or are you like pre-programmed or something like that? What does he ask her?
Yeah, are you intelligent? I think it's something like,
Yeah.
are you?
It was-
He asked her.
Yeah,
the
it was
question,
like
but
one
if
of
you have
those like,
thoughts.
is this live or is this Memrick style questions? Like, are you
Exactly.
real
Mhm.
or are you pre-recorded or something like that? I feel like if I ever had the opportunity to interview Tara Strong, I would want to ask her, are you live or are you pre-recorded? But yeah, I mean, okay, so there's so many things. I have to admit that I'm not like this story I'm not very familiar with, right? I don't know a lot about the Timekeepers. I knew very little going into the Loki series, and I started reading up more on the characters, and I was still surprised to find out that his entire name is Mobius M. Mobius. I mean, that's
And the
pretty
M stands for?
Mobius.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. That's a wow moment right
Wow,
there. If there
Mobius,
was
Mobius,
ever one.
Mobius.
Oh, still haven't got one.
But I know. I'm still disappointed that there hasn't been one. But, you know, it is what it is. We'll keep waiting for that.
Yeah.
It'll be a big party when it happens.
Yeah. But, like I was saying, I mean, I knew a little bit of the TVA. I didn't know the big story behind it, the Timekeepers. But now that I've read so much more, I can't even begin to tell you how excited I am for everything else that's coming. Okay? So, Mobius, okay? The jet skis. There's so many things in this episode that begin to make you wonder, and even Loki wonders. It's a direct question, right? Like, where did Mobius come from?
Mm-hmm.
Like, even Mobius doesn't seem to know where he came from. Like, it's funny how the story of how they were created and how a lot of religions seem to think, you know, people were created are kind of woven into the story and the lore of these characters, right? It's like,
Yes.
you were created by this greater being, and that's it. That's how you became, right? And so he's like, but don't you question that? And Mobius is like, well, it's not that much different than how you were created, right? And so Loki's all like, yeah, I guess so. But the obsession with the 90s in this episode in particular is really strong. And Mobius seems to keep repeating himself over and over in the things that he does. And we see these things planted throughout the entire episode. So one of the questions that I saw asked, because I was going through some Reddit threads that like, okay. One of the questions that was asked was, remember when he went in and he didn't remember leaving the other rings with his drink? Okay. Have you also noticed that all of the, like, the soldiers that they have are basically all clones that may not look
Yeah,
like
they
each
don't look the
other? You know, they're
same.
not like stormtroopers, but technically they are all clones of something. Every one of those has a number assigned to them on their helmet. What's Mobius's number?
Who knows?
What if they're all
Ooh.
clones of Mobius? So when he's in Judge Renslayer's office, and there's all these artifacts like the skate and the snow globe and all that stuff. Obviously, those all came from some mission that he went on, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what if it's not him? And what if Mobius also has his own versions of himself running around on other timelines and are the other agents that Judge Renslayer was talking about.
Well, that is really bending.
I don't know if I can even comprehend all of that.
Well, I mean, if he has... I mean, obviously those all came from something, right? Mm-hmm. If they came from a split timeline, here's my understanding so far. If on the main timeline something goes awry, then it splits off into its own timeline, right? There's some kind of event, it goes on, there's a new timeline. However, if something goes wrong on that timeline, another timeline cannot spawn. It remains the same timeline and just ruckus ensues.
If everybody, like they explained, if everybody's going to end up dying anyway.
Right.
Then, yeah.
Right, so there isn't another timeline that spawned from that. So what if all of those relics are from all of these timelines that eventually spawn, but the agent that was sent out to go through those timelines were other versions of Mobius that didn't make it back?
That could be possible because we don't know who the other person is.
Right.
That's all I could think of.
Right.
And he's always asking.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
There's always that question, like, you know, or like, where did all these other rings come from? And she's like, oh, well, you're not my only agent out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
but
it's very vague.
Right, it's very vague, but he's also the only one that doesn't seem to have a number or like this uniform the way that everyone else does. Like, he's the only one in just like a suit, right?
Yeah.
Which it strikes you kind of odd. In my mini deep dive into who these characters are and kind of this world that we're in right now, because again, I don't know a lot about this storyline, right? I knew several characters. I kind of knew about the character we're going to be talking about soon that's revealed at the end of the episode. But Mobius himself was the judge that presided over a trial of She-Hulk.
Ew.
Okay? She-Hulk, we know, is going to be a new series coming to Disney Plus very soon. So there's already a connection that we can make with one of the newer series. On top of that, I found out that Mobius spent a lot of his time trying to capture a group of people that we have yet to see in the MCU, primarily led by Reed Richards. He was always on the tail of the Fantastic Four because of the things that they were doing in their time shenanigans. So Mobius might play this much deeper character that's going to play, like, he's basically almost like the Nick Fury of...
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the other thing. Oh man, my brain's going at like 200 miles an hour right now. I don't know exactly where the TVA is. There's all these clues from other films that we've seen, and they keep hinting at it, like when Loki asks him, like, oh, how long have you been here? And he's like, oh, I don't know, time moves a lot different than it moves here. Who was the last person to say that? We heard that in Ant-Man, in the quantum realm, when they asked her, you know, how long have you been here? She's like, oh, I don't know. Time moves differently here.
Time moves differently.
Right? So we've heard that phrase before. On top of that, we know for a fact that we have the Okay. Oh, jeez, my head is just like all over.
Take a breath.
Okay. We also know that Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania is coming up, okay, which already ties the quantum realm into everything that's happening. We know that Doctor Strange centers around the multiverse, right? And we know that one of the upcoming villains that's going to play a huge role in Phase 4 of the MCU, which is going to be also the villain in Quantumania, is Kang the Conqueror. Kang the Conqueror also played a huge role in the Fantastic Four comics. Okay, so there's all of these inklings from all of these different comics and all of these characters that we've been wanting to see, and all of these additional storylines that are coming down the line that are all being hinted at in just a couple of episodes of Loki, and my head is spinning right now. It's absolutely spinning, and I love it. There's so much to learn. On top of that, I think, I didn't know this, but apparently... I've mistakenly thought that everything that was happening in the MCU. You know how we have the different Earth realms and the different like places that you can jump? Like we've talked about Earth 616 and how that's kind of like the main Marvel realm that everything happens in. Well, did you also know that the MCU does not take place in 616?
Nope.
I was under the impression for a long time that it took place in 616, but it doesn't.
Wow.
It takes place on Earth 199999.
That's a lot of nines.
It is a lot of nines.
Yeah.
Why they went with that, I have no idea.
Call up Kev and ask him.
I should ask him.
Ask
But
Kev.
everyone, there's tons of them. There's Earth 8311, 2149, the Soul Gem, which apparently we saw in Infinity War, where Tony Stark is in like the dream sequence, or not Tony Stark. Oh yeah, Tony Stark because of the Soul Gem. But we also see Black Widow there. There's Earth 92131. There's Earth 928. So anyway, there's all
Earth
sorts of different realms.
90210, Earth 626.
No, that's Experiment.
That was an old joke from the last time we talked Marvel.
That's
Gotta
called
bring
a
it back.
callback.
That's a callback.
So anyway,
running gag.
Sorry, I'm overly excited. Things are starting to connect in my brain, and talk about rabbit hole. If you thought that the deep dive into the SEA was insane, Melissa, try diving into this and reconnecting everything that's happening as we jump into the quantum realm and jump into the multiverse, because yeah. Okay.
That's a lot.
It's so
no, I'm
much.
hearing you, and I'm like, it's a lot. Like, it's a lot to take in. It's a lot to process. A lot to kind of figure out in your mind. Everything we've seen in the MCU, and try to plug in and try to think. It's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the beauty about this show. Like, it gives us a lot more. And I forgot where I read it, but Kevin Feige did say that this show was gonna be giving everything. Like, we were gonna see, how do I say this? I guess the most immersed show that's gonna connect almost everything else.
Mm-hmm.
And we're seeing that. So it's already episode 2, and our brains are like still processing. Are we ready for episode 3? I don't know.
I know. My head explode. Okay?
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to say. My head explode. Because as the episode progresses, we finally find out who the variant that Loki and Mobius are hunting is.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people online have started saying that this is Lady Loki. And Lady Loki was, I want to say, I don't know a lot about Lady Loki, but I think she was created by Loki after, like, he died or something like that. And I forgot what the story was, but a lot of people are saying it's Lady Loki because it makes sense, right? It would be a trickster. It's kind of a piece of him, and it's kind of him. Oh, he died and he reincarnated as Lady Loki. I think that's the story. And it would make sense if that was the case, right? Because if he's the trickster god and he can morph into whatever he wants, and, you know, he can look however he wants and everything, great. However, if we wanted a twist for Loki as a series and the MCU, there is another character who this could possibly be. And that is a character known as Amora, who was an Asgardian sorceress.
Enchantress.
Yes, Enchantress.
That's what I was going for. You got that Asgard realm.
See, and because it's so connected, and we have Love and Thunder coming up, and, okay, the Celestials are coming. And at one point in Marvel's history, again in 616, I believe is when it happened. Now I'm all screwed up with all the different Earths. But at one point in the in Marvel's timeline, the Asgardian like lore or the story of where they came from got synced up to the Celestials and the beliefs of the Celestials and how they became part of the story of how Asgardians came to be. So instead of just being gods, the Asgardians were told that they were aliens that were created by the Celestials. Right? So I'm telling you, I'm like all over the place. My head is spinning and I don't even care. I love it.
I do too. That's I think when you bring up that, I was going down the Enchantress's Amora as her because I think it's really hard. I could see Lady Loki too. I think I love that theory. But for me, I was going down the Amora route because if you spoiler, as we've been mentioning, she says this has nothing to do with you. I think that was a huge line to drop, and that really made me go on. Speaking with my nephew specifically, I had to call him because he's in depth like you are, Heyzen. That's like my go-to when it comes to these. When he goes to Marvel Comics, like things that he kind of sees little trends with, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm on the same page." It's technically it's like an elderly sister to the lesser mystic Lorelei. I think that's where it comes from, but I think that character has a lot more to offer, as you've mentioned just right there in that little bit of storyline. If this is the opening of that door, maybe a little bit more easier to swallow too. Because if you start opening those other worlds like you mentioned, I mean, that it might be a little bit harder for the watcher, but I think everybody's all on the same page as well as like just the cinematic value. We're talking cinematic value on a TV show, technically Disney Plus, right? What they're giving you is insane.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, I could see the clone theory too, to go on that with Mobius, right? Mobius is because there seems to be this interconnection between each of the officers, or you want to call them for the TVA, right? The watchers, like they all have this like intuition with each other, and it does kind of tie to him. So I could see that too, which would be really a mind spend if you think that, because there's like that. If you watch the show, I mean, that scene when he puts the cups in the office speaking with the Renslayer, it's like they focused in on those rings for a reason. You knew there was something up there. So, and the little tool she grabbed too, I don't know. Did you see like when she grabbed that weapon? I'm like, what is that a reference to the Renslayer? She grabs like a weapon when she found out things were going wrong.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if that ever came down. I was like, what is that from? That was something that kind of gave me a little perk. Like, that's got to be something we're going to figure out a little bit later. But it was interesting to me, that part.
So I remember there was something that I was reading that basically was talking about Ravonna Renslayer. And she's had a lot of different names. Like, one of the names that she went by was Terminatrix. She went by Nebula. She was Kang Nebula. She's Temptress. She's Mistress of Time. So there's so many connections to, if you look at the statues that were behind her, did you happen to realize that the one statue that was behind her was the only one not holding the...
I didn't.
So
the what they're using, you're talking about the actual like lantern looking thing?
Hourglass.
The hourglass, yeah. Like the two
That's
statues on the side had hourglasses, and the one in the middle had its hands out, like it was like blessing her or anyone else that was like right in the middle. And if
that's good too.
If she's technically considered the Mistress of Time in the comic books, that means she might even be one of them. And she's posing as a judge to keep things on track.
True.
Now, as far as the creation of everything, that's where the Celestials would come in. Because each of the Celestials was supposed to be in charge of different aspects of creation. Right? So if they're talking about where everyone came from, they're technically talking about the Celestials. And that would lead into a Fantastic Four, a Thor, possibly even the She-Hulk series. And, the fact that you said, Mel, that even Kevin Feige said that this series was going to be crucial to really getting things going for Phase 4. Man, in 2 episodes, they've dipped us into so many different buckets of what's coming for Phase 4 that I'm telling you, my head is spinning.
I feel like I've watched a full series in 2 episodes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Thinking about
That's a good way to put
just the density
Yeah.
of how much stuff we've seen in those 2 episodes is ridiculous.
You know what? That's what we should do. We should talk about the Celestials in one episode. Because if they're going to be a big part, I'm going to put a pin in that one. Because I know a little bit about the Celestials, but I don't know enough. So I want to deep dive into this one, and I want to talk about them in an upcoming episode. Because I really feel that by the end of Loki, they're going to play a huge part in what gets introduced next. And they're the entity that everyone's talking about. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, think about it. If the Celestials were or are the most powerful beings in the universe because they created it, why else would Infinity Stones not function in the TVA?
That's a good theory.
Right?
I'm with it.
So, anyway,
I
much
also
good
like your
stuff.
yeah. I like your
Everybody.
talking about her possibly being one of the timekeepers. She's very like not catty, but when every time Mobius asks her a question like, "Oh, where are they? What are they doing?" And she's like, "Oh, they're around. They're busy.
Yeah.
They're doing stuff. You don't need to worry about them."
Yeah.
That's basically the
Yeah.
gist of what she's given him when he asks all these questions. So it's another reason that she's probably not who we think she is right now.
You know what else? On top of what you just said, I don't even think there's 3 of them. I think she's the only one
You
left.
think she's the one? Yeah. Before you brought that up, I thought there was none of them were left, and she was, they were just kind of running it without them. But that's a better theory, now that I know what I know, since you've explained it all to me.
Well, I tried. I think I got overly excited and I started rambling at one point, but I now really think that she's the only one after saying it, that she's the only one, and that's why she keeps freaking out about it. That if something goes wrong, she won't be able to fix this anymore.
I see.
So
That's a good
Maybe the other 2 got turned into those statues, and they get when they die, they hold the time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So she's the only one left.
Or that was their punishment by the Celestials for not doing what they were supposed to do.
Yeah, they got turned into statues. It's like a Medusa thing.
Dude.
You know what? If it's not that, we'll just write that into something else.
Okay.
Copyright, trademark. Trademark.
That's funny. Well, I mean, if you've had an opportunity to watch episode 1 and 2 of Loki and you want to jump in on the conversation, please join us over on our Discord server. If you hadn't had the chance, you can head over to the blog post for this episode at podketeers.com/366, and you will find an invite to join us on Discord. You can also join the conversation over on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for Podketeers. We'll be happy to talk about this because I'm so excited. I don't know if you can tell by this entire segment, but everything that's happening right now in the MCU with Loki, kind of excited for it. Just a tad.
Before we totally close the book on this, what was your guys' funniest moment of episode 2? Since it's very open to count, what would you feel like was your favorite moment? Funny, comedic value.
That's a good question.
Anybody want to go first, or you want me to shoot one out?
Go ahead, Heyzen.
Mine was the impeccable comedic timing that they had when Mobius tries to give him back his daggers, and the other agents are like, "Nope," and just yanks them out, like walks away with them.
That was good.
Or they give him his jacket, and then he's all confident wearing his jacket, and then they go, "Oh, it's got on there what you really are." It's variant on the back.
Turn around, and he's very funny. That was a good one.
I want to say it's a little morbid, but I'm gonna say in Pompeii. When he's freeing
I know
the goats, he's like, "Be free, my horned friends," and it's like
that was my
I loved
favorite
it.
scene. That was mine too. That's what I was leading to. I'm so glad you bring it up. But go ahead and let's explain it. People have watched it. It was so good about that part.
But at the same time, what's happening is what's going to happen in Pompeii.
Yeah.
So he's like, it just gets better because he's like, nothing else matters. It's okay.
We're from the future and time
Yeah.
travelers and do and yeah.
That's funny.
Or what was the thing? They walked into the Ren Fair. That was the other episode. She goes, "Oh, you're wearing the wrong clothes," because they're in their TVA stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But how
Wearing the wrong
appropriate,
clothes.
right? That they're at a Ren fair.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What does it mean in French?
Oh, I don't know.
Renaissance. It's the rebirth.
Oh.
Man, we just unlocked another box there.
Right?
How appropriate. I love it.
Okay. Good
I
place
love
to do
the
that.
fact that they use "I Need a Hero" in the background for that scene.
Yeah.
Too.
That was fun.
cool. That was cool too.
So I'm telling you, the Easter eggs and everything in this one. There was an Easter egg, the 327, in one of the floors when they were doing all of the research.
Yeah.
I think I read somewhere that that's an Easter egg that calls back to the Thor comic books when the TVA was first introduced into the comic books.
I was wondering. What that was
so there was. I know that when Loki was doing his reading, he read about Ragnarok and how many people survived, and the Revengers were listed on that paper, and that's what Thor was like. What do you call it? It's like, we're the Revengers, because we're getting revenge on what happened.
I know the atrium where that the TVA building where you see all those floors. That's a real place in Atlanta. I saw you can stay. It's a hotel.
Yes.
You can stay there. Yeah, so you can go stay at the TVA in
cool.
Atlanta. I believe it's
For
Atlanta, somewhere in
reals.
Georgia, or they're filming.
Nice. Well, we'll try
Yeah.
to find it, and we'll put it in the blog post in case anybody wants to check it out and go stay
That'd
there
be
and send us
awesome.
pictures of the TVA.
Yeah.
They get into the room, and the first thing that pops up on TV is Miss Minutes.
Yes.
Hi, y'all. Welcome to the hotel where you're going to be staying.
That'd be sweet.
All right. I think that's going to wrap up this episode for this week. Again, if I got overly excited about this, I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. I'm loving it so much. I can't contain it. So that's it. Any closing words on top of what we've said so far? Right on. So that's going to wrap it up. Until next time, keep dreaming, keep moving forward, and always remember to pass on the magic. Have a fantastic week, everyone.
Bye.
See ya.
Thanks for listening.